I discovered something about myself this past year. No, it's not that I'm really, really ridiculously good looking or have long flowing hair. Don't worry, calm yourselves down. I already knew that about myself. No, what I discovered about myself this year is I'm not really an iPad guy. So why did I just spend a ridiculous amount of money on a new M4 iPad Pro? That's kind of the title of this video. That's the whole reason you're here, so let me tell you. And the first reason is gonna catch a lot of fire, a lot of flack, but let me get it right out of the gate. I am buying this new iPad Pro because it is thinner and lighter. And don't worry, I already read through all of my YouTube comments, I read through Twitter discussions, and the number one thing I am seeing from people out there is, why did Apple make the iPad thinner and lighter? Literally no one was asking for this. And you know what? I think you're wrong. I think you're wrong on this. Because let's be honest, Apple has been playing it, I think, a little too safe in the design department for their past few products. We've actually seen products get thicker again, like the MacBooks. And you know what? I think that was kind of needed because if we go back to when Apple was catching the most flack for making their products thinner and lighter, it was probably around the time when they were still releasing Intel MacBooks. And yeah, they kind of pushed the envelope a little too far because the designs that they were putting out wasn't in sync with the chip hardware that was around at that time. They were still running on Intel, and I think back to that 2015 MacBook, that super slim, lightweight, futuristic MacBook, still kind of looks futuristic to this day, even though it was released in 2015, almost 10 years ago. It's still the thinnest and lightest MacBook ever in history. And yeah, that thing had a really weak Intel CPU in it. And despite it being a really weak Intel CPU, it still ran super hot. So Apple's design at the time wasn't in sync with the hardware. They got a lot of flack for it. And yeah, they really haven't been pushing the design envelope since then. And I think back to when Steve Jobs was making Apple products, and yeah, they got more features, more power year over year. But you know what else happened during Steve Jobs' tenure at Apple? Those products got thinner and lighter, thinner and lighter, thinner and lighter, year after year after year. Now, I know what you're thinking. Okay, they're making it thinner and lighter. There's gonna be a ton of sacrifices to do this. And you know what? Not really. Don't forget, we now live in a world where Apple is making these really advanced Apple Silicon chips. This iPad Pro surprisingly comes with an M4 chip, and you know what I spotted with the M4 chip? It has a ton of high efficiency cores. So I think thermally, this is going to be a very energy efficient chip, and it's not going to produce that much heat that the iPad can't handle. But even if it did produce a lot of heat, Apple kind of addressed that with this design. So they said that with this thinner and lighter design, the thermal capacity or the thermal capabilities of this iPad didn't go down or it didn't stay the same. They actually improved by 20%. It has better thermal management by 20% compared to the previous design because Apple is now using graphite into the design. So this should actually run better than older iPads. And they even said that, if you're worried about durability with this iPad bending, they said that the durability is the same as the previous iPad Pro. Now, granted, these are Apple's claims. I guess we still have to test them. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, if you take this iPad Pro and you try and bend it physically with all your strength, it will. It's aluminum. That's the product, right? It'll bend. But if you're using it normally, I think you'll be fine. I don't think you'll have to worry about this product bending. So the old compromises are gone, and Apple is once again in sync with hardware and design. And I think this is the most radical design they've done probably since that 2015 MacBook. And in terms of iPad designs, the most radical design, I guess, since the 2018 iPad Pro. It's been a while since they've really done anything major with the iPad design. And I look at this thin iPad, I look at Joanna Stern hold up a stick of gum to it, and it appears that the iPad Pro is thinner than that stick of gum. And as someone that's into tech, as someone that's into hardware, as someone that wants to see how far can we push this tech? What are the limits of this, right? I look at that and go, wow, that's an amazing technical achievement. I think it's a really cool looking design already, but making it that much thinner is just crazy. To make it thinner than an iPod Nano, which I used to own, and packing a full M4 computer in there, it's like mind-blowing stuff to me. So I gotta applaud the design. It's one of the reasons I wanna buy this product. But listen, I would not be buying this product if that was the only change they made. If they just made it thinner and lighter, I would not be buying this. The main reason I'm getting this product is because of the display. And I kind of told you so in my buyer's guide video. I think one of the main reasons you should buy this iPad is if you want an OLED display. Now I know, again, the haters are gonna come out. Samsung already has OLED tablets, and that is true. But to Apple's credit here, they are making the first dual OLED display. And you might go, what's the big deal with that? They needed to use this technology. To my knowledge, it is the first, Apple calls it, or I think it's an industry standard, tandem OLED display, a dual layer OLED display. It's the first on the market. And what Apple has done here with that is that they have made an iPad Pro that can get up to 1,000 nits of full sustained SDR brightness. It is the brightest display that they have ever made. And it's an OLED display, so it's gonna look amazing. Like they already had like pretty good displays with the mini LED technology and the 12.9-inch iPad Pro, but this OLED technology is just making everything better across the board. It's gonna be super bright, like 1,000 nits of full screen brightness, I think is super important for an iPad. It's a device that's mobile, you might be using it outside. It's good to have a brighter display so you can see your content. And then the 1,600 nits of peak brightness for HDR content, that's kind of always been there with their HDR displays, right? But then, just a big 13-inch OLED display. It's the biggest OLED display that Apple makes, the brightest display they make. You get those vivid OLED colors, the high resolution of the iPad display. This thing is going to look phenomenal. It is going to look absolutely insane. And it's the thing about this. It is the best display that Apple makes in any product. Better than their iPhone displays, better than their MacBook displays, better than that super expensive $5,000 studio display, whatever they call it, the Pro Display XDR, right? Better than that in an iPad. Again, they have pushed the technology further in this product to make it their best display ever. I'm impressed. Now, yeah, there's a lot of other nice things about this iPad Pro. Getting the M4 chip was a surprise to me. Again, it's a whole new chip in this iPad. 7 months after the MacBooks got the M3, we're already on M4 and it's debuting in an iPad Pro. I still think there's a lot to see with this M4 chip. I feel like there's some hidden capabilities with the AI component of this chip, which I think maybe Apple will show off some features at WWDC. So I'm not really buying it for that reason yet, but I'm kind of anticipating that this chip is more important than Apple is letting on right now. And I really feel like there's gonna be some amazing AI capabilities that maybe run exclusively on this M4 chip or just run a whole lot better with the latest M4 chip technology with that crazy neural core engine. Then there's also that new Magic Keyboard design. I really like the design of this thing being metal and fabric, and the function row keys are cool. That's not even what won me over, but the things that won me over was the trackpad is now a haptic trackpad like the MacBook trackpad, full glass, right? It's gonna feel a lot better to use that trackpad. And then Apple said that this keyboard design, again, was thinner and lighter, a little bit lighter, I believe. So that's something I like, because one of the things I don't like about my current iPad Pro is that when I use it with the Magic Keyboard, it's kind of like, well, this is kind of thicker and heavier than me just bringing a MacBook Air, and you're almost like, okay, it would be nicer if this thing was lighter weight. So, hey, Apple's done that. I'm gonna give them credit for that. Apple Pencil Pro, again, looks like an intriguing device. I'm not an artist though, but they're doing some cool things here with that squeeze gesture, with the barrel roll feature, so you can change the orientation of the brush. I gotta be honest, I think I'm a little disappointed. When I first heard there was haptic feedback in the Apple Pencil, I thought that would translate to writing. From everything I've researched, it doesn't appear like that's true. So I thought, you take the Apple Pencil, you write on the iPad, there would be some sort of like haptic feedback to maybe make it feel like it's more textured, maybe like you're writing on a physical piece of paper. That doesn't seem to be true. One of my biggest complaints with using the Apple Pencil on the iPad Pro is the glossy display. It's a little slippery, so I don't think that's gonna solve my issue, but the technology itself is pretty cool, even though I don't think I'll have like a major use case for it. But again, I wanna reiterate here that the main reason I'm getting this iPad Pro is because of the hardware. To me, when you combine the M4 chip, that OLED display, this thin and light design, this is the best piece of hardware that Apple makes, the most futuristic piece of hardware that Apple makes, maybe minus the Vision Pro. But again, in terms of like a device that's like a screen, something you're used to interacting with, This combination of tech, it's the most advanced piece of hardware they have, the best display they make, the most advanced chip they have, the thinnest and lightest product, or not the lightest, but the thinnest product they have ever made. But let me be fair, I still have my doubts. I can acknowledge that this is an amazing piece of hardware. It's something I will probably end up using, but I've been pretty entrenched with my MacBook Pro for this time. I really like using macOS for a lot of things. And even though iPadOS has caught up to some extent, there's a lot of powerful apps on the iPad, I just feel more comfortable using a Mac. And when I go back to the iPad, even though it's easy to use, there's a lot of workflows in my professional use that I feel like I have to relearn every time I go back to the iPad. So it's going to be a struggle at first, I think, software-wise. And ultimately, I still think iPadOS, there's still a missing piece with the software that I'm waiting to click. I'm waiting to happen, right? I think a lot of us are. And I don't necessarily want the iPad to be a MacBook, because then why not just use a MacBook, or why not make like a hybrid MacBook device? I still feel like there can be a special experience with this iPad, but I still feel like there's still more Apple can get out of that experience to make it better than what it is now. And I'm really wondering, with this AI play, if that's kind of the missing element here, and if we'll see something at WWDC where, using Siri and the AI on this iPad Pro and using it in tandem with maybe some of these apps that Apple has in the works, or something like that, maybe it starts to click. Maybe it starts to make a lot more sense, and these workflows get a little more simplified for me. So let me tell you what configuration I got, since we rambled all that off, right? You're probably interested in what configuration I got. And I gotta be honest, it was a struggle going through this ordering process, a real struggle for me. Because going into this event, when I first heard the initial rumors that OLED was gonna be on both iPad models, I was like, well, I want the most portable experience possible. I kind of want to return to that 12-inch MacBook lifestyle of having the thinnest and lightest device. And you know what? Apple kind of answered my prayers there. They released an 11-inch iPad Pro, weighs less than a pound, has that Magic Keyboard, probably the closest experience I would get to using a 12-inch MacBook in iPad form factor. But I looked at that screen size and I went, 11-inch, I should get that one. But then, you know what? This is going to sound really dumb. The fact that 13-inch got lighter by more than the 11-inch, right? It's like 1.2-ish pounds. I kind of went, ooh, maybe that's light enough now. And the fact that 13-inch was actually the thinner model, like the 11-inch is 5.3 millimeters and the 13-inch is 5.1. I was like, that one's the more technically advanced product still, right? It's thinner and it got the bigger weight reduction compared to the sizes. So I was going, maybe that would be better now. Maybe I can make that work, especially with the thinner Magic Keyboard. Maybe that's the device to get, because at times I still feel like that 11-inch iPad is a little cramped, especially if I do anything like multitasking. So yeah, it was a struggle. I didn't know what to get, especially with the higher price point, right? Starting at $1,300, I was like, do I get the 13-inch? Should I just save and get the 11-inch? I really don't need a big screen when I have my Mac. But I gotta be honest, I thought about it. I thought about how good that OLED display is gonna look. The biggest OLED display that Apple makes. I caved. I got the 13-inch model. I don't know if I'm proud of myself. I'm probably not. It might be a mistake. But yeah, I went big. I got the 13-inch model. Maybe I'll regret it. Who knows? Stay tuned. I also struggled on whether I should get the nano texture display. I felt like having a less reflective iPad would be great. Sometimes like seeing glare on the iPad does bother me. But I ultimately did not get it. One of the reasons was because the shipping times on it were really long. So I was like, okay, I kind of want my iPad now. But another reason was I was watching like hands-on videos. I watched like a Dave 2D video, and he mentioned that the screen itself has this coating, but like the side bezel of the iPad Pro is still kind of like glossy. And I kind of went, I don't know. That might annoy me a little bit. So I figured, why not save $100? Why not just get the standard display? Again, I'm still kind of conflicted on that, because I thought going into this again, maybe I'd get nano texture, but I didn't. And then the storage configuration, again, I looked at the spec page. I looked at the bin chip. I was like, I don't want the weaker CPU. I looked at the memory. I kind of want the max memory. So I got a 1 terabyte model. I was like, let me get the max M4 chip. Let me get 16 gigabytes of memory. Let me give this a real shot. So I got the 1 terabyte model. Of course, I got the white Magic Keyboard as well, Apple Pencil Pro. So this thing's pretty specced out. It was a very expensive iPad Pro. I think the iPad itself was almost like $2,000. I think it was like $1,899. And then by the time you add the keyboard and the Apple Pencil, we're looking at like a $2,400 device, maybe more with taxes and all that stuff. But yeah, that is my configuration of this new M4 iPad Pro. I'm buying it. I think it's a cool looking device. I think I'm really going to enjoy that screen. So let me know what you think. Are you buying this iPad Pro? Are you excited for it? Do you agree with my reasoning on why I'm buying it? Or do you think I'm a fool? Do you think I'm an idiot? Do you think that Apple shouldn't be making thinner and lighter devices? I don't know. But yeah, let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, give me a like. If you want to see more, make sure you're subscribed. See if I was right about this whole purchasing process. That'll be fun. Maybe I'll be wrong. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.